Okay, this is the reading test from test number 1 of the IELTS Book 9. I'm going to be doing the reading just the way you are, so I haven't seen this before, and we're going to try and answer the questions together. I'm also going to be looking at skimming, how to skim correctly, so that we can answer the questions as quickly as we can. So we see now it's 1:39, and we're going to try and do this all before 2:39. Okay, so the first thing is to look at the heading. Obviously, this is Mr. Perkin, a man who invented synthetic dyes, so fake, not natural dyes. And the good thing to do is always to look at the first paragraph. So let's have a look. He was born 1839 in London. He was interested in those things. Chance stumbling upon. So to stumble upon is to suddenly find by mistake. A functional laboratory in his dead grandfather's home solidified his enthusiasm, made him become very interested in chemistry. Okay, so we've read the first part about this guy. Now, what I would suggest you do now is have a look at the questions. Now, these true, false, and not given questions, in fact, are not a good idea to look at, because if you look at these, I would say a good 2/3 of these are actually rubbish. So this is not a good type of question to look at, but we might find some better questions to look at here. Okay, so now you have to answer these questions. So before his discovery, with what group in society was color purple associated with? Okay, so purple and what group of society? What potential did he understand his new dye had? What was the name finally used to refer to the color? Okay, so the name of the color. What was the name of the person Perkin consulted before setting up his own dye work? So the name. And in what country did Perkin's new invented color become fashionable? So his new invented color. And according to the passage, which disease is now being targeted by scientists? Synthetic dyes. So now, obviously, this is going to come later on in the paragraph. Okay. So now we're going to look back at the text. We're going to try and understand this text. We've looked at the first paragraph. We've got a general idea who this guy is and what the text is about. And now what we're going to do is look at underlined. We're going to underline keywords, but how we find keywords is maybe a different to what you've learned. The first thing I would suggest is to look at capitalized. The first thing to look at is the first sentence of each paragraph. Spend time on those, and then look at other capitalized words and numbers. So let's read this. As a student of the City of London School, he became interested in chemistry. Right. Then the next thing, we're going to start with these capitalized letters. Here's another capitalized letter, and then numbers here. So the age of 15, College of Chemistry, Royal Institution, and there's the Royal again. Okay, and we're going to carry on with this. But something else we're going to look at is something that I like to use. They're sort of honey phrases. They sort of attract, if you imagine that the examiner is a bee, they attract the examiner to where he might put some questions. So we're going to be looking at those as well. And I'll let you know when I see them. Okay, so at the time is a type of honey phrase. It's a time phrase. And often time phrases attract the attention of the examiner who sets this up. Okay, so we've got him again, Royal College of Chemistry. We've got a German chemist called Wilhelm. After that, another time phrase is a honey expression. Okay, get back up here. At the time again. South America, 1856. Therefore, this is a type of honey phrase. We've got this Hoffman. Okay, nothing. In 1856, we've got Perkin. During his vacation, that is another time phrase. Despite. Despite is a type of honey phrase. It's showing contrast. as well as however. Instead, another one that's useful. Luckily, it's a type of adverbial. We mentioned this deep purple, so that's going to come up. It's going to help us here. Louis Pasteur. This is a direct quote, so that might be useful. Carry on here. Anything else historically? This is adverbial, so the ly talks about the whole sentence afterwards, so that's a honey phrase. Indeed, that's something that focuses your attention. That's another focusing of your attention here. Okay, I've just noticed here that's an answer to one of these here, so I'm going to put a box around that. This is a contrasting honey phrase. Okay, we go down very quickly. Tyrian purple, that's the name. Originally named it Tyrian purple. There's something for this one here. French, Scottish divers, this guy called Robert Puller. Hoffman again. So is a honey phrase. Let's just look at. Okay. Let's go up here with the help of, might be a honey phrase, London, 1857, Empress Eugene of France, Queen Victoria. Okay, nothing really else there. It's those dates as well. Perkins Green. Although, sorry, that's a honey phrase. Vital, these type of words, important, essential, vital. Crucial, another word, crucial role. Okay, and that's probably going to be answering for question 13. Now we can go back to this one here. We've had a general look at that question, at the text, and we should be able to quickly get through here. So Michael Faraday, we saw him down here. Where was he now? First person to recognize Perkins' ability. We saw Michael Faraday. Where did we see Michael? Should have underlined him. There's Michael. His talent and devotion to the subject perceived by his teacher Thomas Hall encouraged him to attend a series of lectures given by Michael Faraday. So no, he didn't know Michael Faraday, and nor did Michael Faraday know him. So it must be Thomas Hall, so this is false. Michael Faraday suggested Perkins should enroll, so this later they become friends, clearly. He fired the young chemist's enthusiasm further, and he went on to attend the Royal College of Chemistry. So suggested is a problem here, so that's also false. Perkins employed Wilhelm Hoffman as his assistant. Now I've got him here. At the time of Perkins' enrollment, it was headed by the noted German chemist, Hoffman. His scientific gifts caught Hoffman's attention, and within 2 years he became Hoffman's youngest assistant. He referring to Mr. William. So he didn't employ him. It's the opposite. Again, false. It's the exact opposite. Perkins was still young when he made the discovery that made him rich and famous. Okay, so he was 15 when he went into the college. But did he make his discovery then? Instead, he produced a mysterious dark sludge. So he wanted to do something with this quinine to solve the malaria problem. He found this deep purple solution. So we've got to look at the timing here. So the time is 1856, 1856. 1853, he went to college, he was 15, so he was 18 when this happened. So he was still young, and I would say 18 is very young, yes, so that's true. The trees from which quinine is derived only grow in South America. Native to South America. Okay, it's native to South America. That does not mean, however, that it is only found. Nowadays you can pick up the tree and send it over to anywhere. So in this case, we don't know if that's true or false. So this is an example of not given. It may well be true, but we don't want to be sure. Well, sorry, we don't want to make guesses unless it's specifically said here in the text. Perkin hoped to manufacture a drug from the coal tar waste product. Yes, he did. He was attempting to manufacture quinine from this stuff, an inexpensive and readily available coal tar waste product. So he hoped to, he was attempting to, that is also true. And the last one, Perkin was inspired by the discoveries of the famous scientist Louis Pasteur, and let's see, he finally produced a debose, and proving the truth of the famous scientist Louis Pasteur. Chance favours only the prepared mind. Perkin saw the potential of his unexpected find. He was inspired? Well, we don't know. No mention more about this Mr. Pasteur. So he may well have been, but maybe not. Again, a case of not given. Not given or NG. Okay, let's go down. Before his discovery, what group of society was purple associated with? Now, I know that because I have knowledge, external knowledge, but we need to double check. So here we've got the color purple. Was so costly in society at the time. Only the rich could afford it. What group is the rich? So the answer here, the rich. Notice you can only have no more than 2 words. Okay. What potential did Perkin immediately understand that his new dye had? So he quickly grasped, here's this word, quickly grasped that it should be used to color fabric, making the world's first synthetic dye. What potential? Yeah, this is new. It might be this word, commercial possibilities. What potential his new dye had? Commercial possibilities, as in making a lot of money. Yeah, commercial possibilities. Oh, sorry. Possibility. TIES. Okay, I'm going to do number 10 down here so that we can, it's not messing up. So what is the name finally used to refer to the first color he invented? Perkin originally named his dye Tyrian purple, but later became commonly known as mauve. What was the name used to refer to the first color? Finally used. Oh, there's a key word there. So it was later became known as mauve. No other mention about the name, so let's use that word. MAUVE. Number 11. What was the name of the person Perkin consulted before setting up his own dye works? He asked advice of the owner who assured him that management would be well with. He left college and gave birth to modern chemical industry. So on the advice of this Robert Poulard. What country did it first become fashionable? Well, we've seen the word France, so we can quickly see that. In that country. Okay, so he got a commercial boost, some money from this Empress Eugenie. She loved the color. Soon, mauve was necessary shade for all the fashionable ladies in that country. And number 13 then, according to the passage, which disease is now being targeted by researchers using synthetic dyes? Which disease? Okay, which is tuberculosis, cholera, and anthrax. Sorry. Became vital to medical research in many ways. For instance, they are used to stain previously invisible microbes and bacteria, allowing researchers to identify such plural for bacteria as tuberculosis, cholera, and anthrax. It's pleasing their current use is in the search for a vaccine against malaria. Which disease is now being targeted? Ooh, that's a tricky one now. Vaccine. It's to identify bacteria. Okay, so it's only to identify, it's not necessarily to target it. So that, I think the only one is malaria here. They use them to color the bacteria, not to actually kill them. Okay, so there we go. Now we're moving on to passage number 2. So this is this one here. A little bit, and I'll move down to this one here. So again, looking at the text, the top text first. Is there anybody out there? We've got a picture, very useful. So that's obviously talking about space and extraterrestrial intelligence. Extra out of terrestrial, the Earth. So obviously in space. Let's read the first paragraph, then we'll look at some of these. So the question of whether we are alone in the universe has haunted humanity for centuries, but we now stand poised on the brink of an answer. On the brink, so almost, we're soon to discover an answer to that question. As we search for radio signals, this search, known as the acronym SETI, is a difficult one. Although groups around the world have been searching intermittently for 3 decades, it's only now that we have reached the level of technology we can make a determined attempt to search all nearby stars for any sign of life. Okay, now this is a type of question that's very useful to read before we look at the text itself. So let's have a look, because this will give us a summary of the text. So seeking transmission, appropriate responses, vast distances to closest neighbors, assumptions underlying the search. So we can assume people think you are crazy if you start looking for this. The reasons for the search, okay, and knowledge of extraterrestrial life forms and the likelihood of life on other planets. Okay, we can assume that a more general point or heading will come at the beginning and more specific at the end, and then results and the final paragraph. So if we've got something about results, nothing here, but something more general. Assumptions, it might be, and likelihood. We're looking at perhaps these two, they're a bit more general. Anyway, let's have a look at this possibility of any more questions before we move on. That might help us. Okay, so life expectancy of the Earth. What kinds of signals are they searching for? How many stars? How many are they searching for? And again, this is yes, no, not given. That's a dangerous type of question to look at, so don't look at that one yet. Okay, let's have a look back at these now. So we need to match these paragraphs. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at underlining the keywords. Remember the first paragraph as well, the first line of each paragraph. So the primary reason for the search is basic curiosity. Okay, so this curiosity idea. Then we're looking for honey words. We want to know whether we're alone or whether city, however, for example, very useful. There's a rhetorical question. That means because in this case, so that's useful. If clauses are useful, they're honey phrases. Thus, therefore, honey phrases. If this is a focusing phrase, it is impossible that. Okay, let's go down. In discussing whether we are alone, most city scientists adopt 2 ground rules. Okay, that's going to be quite important. First, UFOs, although. Second, so these two this type of listing is very important. Apart from, okay, in other words, explaining a bit more, but focusing phrase with ly. Okay, even useful. Even when we make these assumptions, our understanding of life forms is still severely limited. For example, however, when we look at 100 billion stars, 100 billion galaxies, the Milky Way, in fact, leads us to estimate that's a result-related thing. That means very useful. Just getting extra information. Okay, and again, this number here. An alien civilization could choose many different ways of sending information across the galaxy, but many of these either require too much energy or else are severely attenuated while traversing the vast distances across the galaxy. So they're either too much energy, one of them, or they lose their power. Turn out to discover that. We'll leave these numbers here, and so far that's about time. Australian parks, New South Wales, until now. 1992, US Congress voted us $10 million. Much of the money has been. Project has 2 parts. Be careful of these. 1 part American operator, Puerto Rico, French, Capenols, France. This part very important. Such in there is 1,000 stars with that range. The other part is small antennas of massive deep space network. Okay, now we got over here. There is considerable debate over how we should react if we detect a signal from an alien civilization. So there's debate. What do we do? Everybody agrees that's a type of phrase that would be useful. Apart from, okay, a rhetorical question, luckily adverbial. It's not important then. If or whether to reply. Okay, so we've had a skim of that now. So we should be able to start answering these questions. So paragraph A, now that's something I didn't notice. Be very careful that obviously V is done already. So for the sake of your own health, cancel V out. So that's done. So now we've got paragraph B to think about. Okay, primary reason is curiosity, whether there's something special, SETI. However, there are other reasons for being interested. For example, we have So that might be the reasons. Why are we doing this? Reasons for the search. Oh, I'm looking at A. Sorry. Stupid boy. 2 ground rules. So they are ignored. Conservative assumption. So they're very careful about what they speak about. So that's assumptions underlying the search, or appropriate. Yeah, there's the word assumption there we're looking for. Okay, so assumptions. So that's IV. Paragraph C. So we're not, just to be clear, if you read this carefully, it's a life form that is pretty well like us. If it differs radically, we may not recognize it. So that's what they're assuming, that they're a humanoid in form. Okay, C. Even when we make these assumptions, our understanding of life is still very limited. Okay, so that's done. And what do we know? Knowledge about extraterrestrial life forms. So that's talking about how much you'll have to look through. So that must be VI or 6. And then paragraph D. Too much energy. How much money? Okay, so vast distances. So all the searches to date have concentrated looking for radio waves in this frequency range. So far there have been a number of searches by various groups. Until now there have not been any detections from the few hundred stars which we've been searching. We know that one's coming later. Seeking the transmission. So these guys are seeking a transmission. I think that's number 1. Seeking transmission of radio signals. Okay. And how do we react now? We know there's appropriate responses. That must be number 2. Okay. Now let's go down here. So what's the life expectancy of Earth? Ooh, no, I must admit I didn't see that. Angel, so what's this? Life expectancy of Earth. Right, I didn't read that carefully. Lifetime of a planet like ours is several billion years, no more than 3 words. Several billion years. What kinds of signals from other intelligent civilizations are city scientists searching for? Kinds of signals. Radio waves. Concentrated on looking for radio waves in this frequency range. Radio waves. What? How many stars are the world's most powerful radio searching? So, searching the nearest. So the plus American. One part is a targeted search using the world's largest radio telescopes. These 2 here, searching the nearest 1,000 likely stars. How many stars? 1,000. Okay, Now, yes, no, not given. Alien civilizations may be able to help the human race to overcome serious problems. Where do you think that might be? Probably down the bottom. No, actually it was up here, wasn't it? What's the reason for, what's the point of doing this? Wipe ourselves out. It may even be possible that older civilizations may pass on the benefits of their experience with dealing with threats to survival, such as other threats we haven't discovered yet. That's true, yes. SETI scientists are trying to find a life form that resembles humans in many ways. Yes, we saw that over here. Assumptions. Looking for a life form that is pretty much well like us. Yes. The Americans and Australians have cooperated in joint research projects. So we've got the Americans down here. Creating a Australians. There's no mention of them working together, just that fact that they happen to be both doing it at the same time. So that is maybe true, but it's not given. So far, SETI scientists have picked up radio signals from several stars. Now that's not true, we know that. Just find it for you. I read that somewhere. So far, until now, that's why these are so useful. Until now, there have not been any detections. So far, have picked up. I know that if that was true, that would be in the news for sure. So 24 is the easy one. 25. The NASA project attracted criticism from some members of Congress. Now, I think that was true, but it's not written here. So, not given. And if a signal from outer space is received, it will be important to respond promptly? No, because we know that if there's a delay of a few years or decades while the human race debates the question, because it takes such a long time to get it back to them. So, not. Sorry, no. Nope. Okay, alright, we're almost here. So let's have a look at this tortoise. History of the tortoise. Tortoise is an animal. The slow thing, turtle is the equivalent that lives in the sea. They don't have any pictures, do they? Let's have a look. No pictures. Okay, so we just have to rely on that. And so history, talking about a period of time, obviously a much longer time, and we're going to read the first paragraph carefully. So if you go back far enough, everything lived in the sea. Various points in history, enterprising individuals moved onto the land, sometimes even to deserts, bring their seawater with them and blood and cellular fluids. Scorpions have moved out, snails and crustaceans like crabs, land crabs. And we mustn't forget the plants, so those have also moved out. So do they mention tortoise at all here? Okay, well, reptiles. Okay, so they're talking about the movement from water, from the sea to the land. Let's have a look at some of these. These might be able to help us. So what had to transfer from sea to land before animals could migrate? Okay, so maybe plants, okay. Which two processes are mentioned in those? Had to make big changes as they moved onto land. Physical feature possessed by them, do whales lack, so they don't have physical feature, and which animals might Ichthyosaurus have resembled, looked like. True, false not given. Those are dangerous ones. We don't want those. But this might be useful. Method of determining where the ancestors of turtles and tortoises come from. 71 species of living turtles and tortoises were examined, and a total of something were taken. A total of, that must be a number, taken from the bones of their forelimbs. Number plus thing. Okay, leave some space there. Alright, the data was recorded on a information. Land tortoises were represented by a dense towards the top. I don't understand that. Sea turtles were grouped together in the bottom part, whatever that means. The same data was collected from some living something and added to other results. Outcome points to these. This is not really helping us to skim because it's obviously part of one paragraph. Okay, so we can't do that yet, but we do have. Oh, what's that last one there? This might help us. According to the writer, the most significant thing about tortoises is that. Okay, that's not going to help us either. All right, let's see if we can answer these questions then. So we're going to look at, say, about 7 minutes we spend on this skimming, and then we'll try and answer these questions. So, nevertheless, useful for honey phrase. Nothing there really. Don't even. They do, however. There is evidence that. Sorry, I forgot to read the first sentence here. Moving from land would involve major design. Okay, so this is something about here, major design, including breathing and reproduction. Okay, we'll put a little star there because that's going to help us. There's evidence that all modern turtles are descended from a terrestrial ancestor which lived before most of the dinosaurs. So evidence descended from. Okay. Now this italicized stuff is useful. You might wonder, this is related to rhetorical questions and also this word how and the relative clause. Especially useful one if sometimes there's that Ichthyosaurus thing, so we'll look at that. One way to do this is, okay, there we've got these important people. They obtained 3 measurements in these particular bones of 71 species. There's that 71 came up there. Sure enough, useful honey phrase. The next step was to these things here, no doubt. Both might think, therefore, that modern land tortoises have probably stayed on land ever since those early terrestrial times, as most mammals did after a few of them went back to the sea. But apparently not. If there's a honey phrase, this suggests that is to rather honey phrase, therefore in common with, so related to like, also a honey phrase. Later. Finally. Okay, we should be ready to check these out now. So, what had to transfer from sea to land before any animals could migrate? So, assume it's food. Before any man could migrate, what do you mean to transfer from sea to land before any Oh, yeah, so there, without whose, very important, and we mustn't forget, that's the honey phrase I'd missed. Yeah, so I was right, plants. Because without which the prior invasion of the land could have happened. None of which could happen, right? Which two processes are mentioned? Breathing and reproduction. Sorry, this should be and. Just put and here. Breathing and reproduction. Right. 29. Which physical feature possessed by the ancestors do whales lack? Now, whales. We've seen the word whales here and whales there. Again, whales. Must be up here somewhere. Right, here it is. Having never developed anything equivalent to the gills of their earlier marine incarnations. So, possessed by the ancestors. No, okay. Having developed anything equivalent to the gills of the marine. So, gills. These are the things that fish use to breathe on the side of the fish. Okay, so their ancestors used to have gills. They don't. They have to come to the surface to breathe. Which animals might Ichthyosaurus have resembled? Looked like dolphins and surely lived like dolphins in the water. Okay. Okay, good. Turtles were among the first group of animals to migrate back to the sea. Okay. Turtles went back to the sea a very long time ago. And they breathe air, however they are a long time ago. We're among the first group. We don't know. Very long time ago. They could well. Oh, that's tricky, this one. Very long time ago. The first group of mammals to migrate back to the sea. We don't know. Could have been whales. This is not given. Because maybe whales were before them. It is always difficult to determine where an animal lived when its fossilized remains are incomplete. Fossils here. You might wonder how we can tell whether fossils lived on land or water, especially if only fragments are found. Sometimes it's obvious. Especially if only fragments are found, it's not difficult, it's obvious. So that's false. And the habitat of Ichthyosaurus can be determined by the appearance of their fossilized remains. So, surely lived. True. Right. Now we'll get onto this. And this was 71, so a total of something were taken from the bones of their forelimbs. 3 measurements. triangular graph paper to plot 3 measurements against one another. All the land. The bones of their forelimbs. Let's just check these particular bones. Which bones are they talking about? Bones of their forelimbs. Wow, so you have to go backwards all the way to the previous paragraph to see that they mean by what they mean. And it's a total of 3 measurements. Okay, the data was recorded on a graph paper. Gone on we've got here, so it can't be paper. A kind of triangular graph paper. Comparing the information. Okay, or maybe a graph paper. See what I can see here. Outcome: the land was represented by dense something that points towards the top. Upper part, top, formed a tight cluster, a dense cluster of points. So we've got of points, so cluster. Dense and tight are synonyms. Some data was collected from some living species and added to other results. Oh, I can see it now. The data was recorded on a graph. Lower part of the triangular graph. So paper doesn't fit, because a paper, unless it's a research paper, doesn't fit. Anyway, coming back to this one. You might think that modern land, so modern living, lands have probably stayed on land ever since these terrestrial times, as most mammals did. But apparently not. If you draw out the family tree of modern turtles, nearly all branches are aquatic. From living, how many can we put? 2, no more than 2 words and or a number. Some living. Modern land tortoises. Land tortoises. Land tortoises. But now we've got the word species here, so living land tortoise. No S because there's the S here. That's an adjective. Functioning is an adjective. The points for these species turned out to be positioned about up the triangle between the land tortoise and the sea tortoise. But this is talking about a family tree. Okay, this is tricky, this one. 10 more minutes left. Should be enough to do this. Positioned about halfway up the triangle. About halfway up the triangle. Halfway. Way, so land tortoise is mentioned here, so we've got halfway here. Maybe it's What? Here it is. Living tortoises and some living tortoise. Living turtles and tortoises. The same data was collected from some living. Oh, I'm so confused now. The same data was collected from some living. Step 3. Oh god, so that's step 1 already done. Can't have tortoises already. We've got this word amphibious species. Okay, but does it mean living? It doesn't say living. So this is the problem. This word, I don't like it. Anyway, that means they live both in land and water. Outcome: the position of the points indicating that both these ancient creatures were leave us in no doubt. Their points are right in the thick of the dry cluster. Both these fossils were dry land tortoises. Dry land tortoises. Dry dash land tortoises. Last one. 8 minutes to go. According to the writer, the most significant thing about tortoises is that doubled. So they therefore represent a remarkable double turn. They went from sea to land, evolved back into the water. So it's coming at the beginning, and they returned yet again to the land as tortoises. Oh, I see. So they went out, and in again. So that must be D. Okay. So let's check our answers. After all that, just change the color to red. Let's go to the top. With 7 minutes to spare, not too bad. Hopefully it's all right. First one is false. Suggested he should enroll in the. Oh, I can see why this is not given, because maybe he did. We actually don't know. So 8.5 so far on the second question. Number 3, false is correct. Number 4, true is correct. Number 5 should be not given, which is correct. Number 6 is true, and number 7 not given. Okay, let's hope that's the only one that I've made a mistake with. Now we've got the rich, or just rich, is okay. Commercial possibilities. If you just had commercial and no possibilities, that's also acceptable. So commercial. Number 10, mauve. Yes, mauve. Robert Pollard. If you just put Pollard, that's acceptable. 12 is France. You can also, things like in France is acceptable, and yeah, that's fine. And then 13 is malaria, thank goodness. Now we've got the answers for here. IV, so 4. There's, okay, we're going to 8.5 still. That is incorrect. Paragraph C. Likelihood. Why did I say VI? Knowledge of knife forms. The knowledge of life forms. I had the likelihood. Do you know how likely is that life will arise naturally? I can see the reason why, but I have no idea why I decided to do that. Knowledge. Why did I say that? It's very strange. Anyway, those other two are correct. Okay. Now we've got 18, which is several billion years, correct. And then we've got radio waves. If you didn't have waves, that's acceptable, just radio. 1,000 stars. Then we have yes for this one. We have yes for this one, not given for this one. No is correct, not given for this one, and no. And over here we have the word plants, which is correct. Breathing and reproduction, no need for and, you can just put both those words. Dolphins is correct, then this one is not given, false and true is correct. And then 3 measurements, correct. Graph, ooh, so just as well we scratched our paper. Again, a reason for that was the grammar. Cluster, good. Amphibious, good. Halfway, and the last one is dryland tortoises. And then finally the answer is D. So 8.5 for a native speaker, or actually an IELTS examiner. So just shows you how difficult it is to get a 9. I hope that was useful. Thank you.